Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for giving me the honor and the privilege to have what they say as the last say. The last say in the sense that whatever I say, nobody can question anymore. Because after saying what I'm going to say, I will close the session. Anyway, thank you very much for this honor. Being able to attend the first day and the second day. And I know that it is not a good time to deliver the speech because intellectually, we have certain limits. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us such because the body and the mind also needs a rest. But I hope you will bear with me for what I'm going to say. There are three things I'm going to say. The first thing is to say the thank yous. Number two, the rapporteurs have given me a very thick stack of reports. And if I were to present those reports, it will be a presentation by itself and probably will end at 8:30 tonight. So I'll probably go through very quickly with these reports, and I'm sure reporters will make it available to you before you go back to your respective countries. And number three, I will, of course, as I said, I have the left to say a few things with regard to leadership, which is something that is very close to my heart. Firstly, may I take the opportunity to heartily congratulate and to say thank you to, on behalf of everybody, to USIM and ACAP for holding this summit. And number two, thank you very much to the rapporteurs who have diligently worked, I believe, day and night to write something out for me to read out today. And thank you very much for the work well done. And I'm sure that after this, you'll be making enough copies to be distributed to the participants. And of course, number three, I will make brief remarks with regard to my favorite and remaining true to the theme of this conference, rewriting the narrative. For me, it will be rewriting the leadership narrative. But first of all, may I take this opportunity to very quickly run through what the rapporteurs have put in their reports, which you will see. First of all, they have noted the summit was started off with an address by His Royal Highness, the Sultan of Perak, Sultan Nazrin, and His Royal Highness presented indeed a very thought-provoking paper entitled Reclaiming Education in Muslim Countries. I'm sure that you will note that he recalled the great institutions that we had in the past, like Al-Qarawin, Al-Azhar, Al-Nizamiyah, and Baitul Hikmah. These institutions instill many great values, but sadly, they are slowly, probably, surely disappearing in our midst. His Royal Highness challenged university leadership to ensure that we relive again those good values and how the roles of the university leaders in order to make sure that these values are relived again. Later, Ahmad Killer presented his very strong views on the decline of civilization, and he said that the West learned from the Muslims, but in a manner, distorted what they took. And as a result, there is an imbalance about almost everything related to our lives. And he proposed Mizan to be the guide and the beacon for humankind. Tan Sri Zul Razak gave an illuminating presentation on equity in education, focusing on educational for sustainable development. And I would like to thank him for opening the door for me to say a few words on leadership. Tan Sri Zul gave a delightful presentation on the subject of sustainability. He drew our attention to the overriding need for a strong education leadership in order to achieve the goals of education for sustainability development. I cannot agree more with him on that particular aspect. And I said yesterday, I wish he could have expanded the leadership phenomenon on a subject matter that is very important indeed. But of course, he could not do so because his paper was entitled Equity in Education. However, by doing so, he opened the door for me to present my opinion on a matter of leadership. And it is leadership in the new millennium, not in the last millennium, which means to say we cannot have the same old things. We must think differently because the situation demands that we think differently about leadership. My presentation on leadership was presented some years back, and I would like to say at the international conference that it was not well received. So that you know where I'm coming from. And even before I could finish my paper, someone from the floor stood up and said, "What kind of idiotic idea you are presenting to us?" I hope no one will interrupt me when I'm presenting that. Then otherwise I probably say that I am probably in the wrong. For me, the leader is anything and everything. The leader is the principal variable for achieving our wish list, like equity in education, Mizan, transformation, innovation, creativity, competitive advantage, and what have you. Without the leader, nothing can be achieved because he is the pivotal point of departure for everything else. The flip side is also true. The wrong leader can kill and destroy everything that we wish for. We therefore need a new narrative of leadership for the new millennium, and we need to rewrite it. This is because the present model of leadership is based on an erroneous and unexamined narrative. Today's appointment of the leader is based on the apex model. We put the leader to be at the pinnacle of the pyramid. There are consequences for this model. Such a leader tends to believe that he is the only one with a monopoly on wisdom and expertise. Such a leader tends to regard his followers as slaves, to be seen and not heard. Such a leader will not entertain a contrarian view because it is seen as challenging his authority as the be-all and the know-all person. A follower can be severely punished for the audacity to challenge the thinking of his boss. I have seen and witnessed followers changing a position at mid-sentence when he notices the body language of his boss. The boss need not articulate his displeasure. He just swivels in his chair and looks at the ceiling. And that is enough message to the terrified follower. Such a leader surrounds himself with my own men. Read yes men at the mid-leadership level. So what chance has Zol got with his sustainability initiative or Ahmad Killer's quest for Mizan? I've written a paper some time back with a very controversial title. You probably may want to refer it later if you can accept me. I have given it controversial title. I call it Organization, a curse or a blessing. Following Robert Michels, who wrote The Iron Law of Oligarchy, had he pronounced the mantra, who says organization, says oligarchy, I posited that when you set up an organization or institution, you can kiss it goodbye. The person at the pinnacle will hijack it and replace the original goals with those of his own. Not many agree with me, but this is a fact, the iron law of leadership. There is hope, though. We need to rewrite the leadership narrative. We must advocate for a shift on the emphasis on the apex model to that of the base model. In this respect, I would like to humbly propose we need a leader whose primary objective is to liberate his followers in real fact, so that they become leaders, if not like him, better than him. I posit that the new leadership narrative be predicated on the premise that the principal mission of the leader is to diligently work towards his redundancy, so that the followers do not need or depend on his leadership anymore. This is where someone from the crowd stood up and said that, what kind of idiotic idea is that? How can we become leaders when we don't have followers? I said, no, how can you become leaders when you have slaves? To put it in a more dramatic way, the leader must die so that his followers may live. This construct, however, does not apply to political leadership, because politics is a different kind of species. And it is now, in the present circumstances, I better do not touch on that. The corollary to this is that if the leader lives, the followers must die. Michel's iron law of oligarchy, iron law of leadership, and his warning should not be dismissed. I recommend you to read that book. It is, in fact, very pertinent, very current even to this day. People tried to test his hypothesis but could not find in order to refute his hypothesis. And there are no two ways about this conception, about this iron law. This is a zero-sum game construct. This, to me, is the imperative of leadership. You may disagree with this deterministic model. I'm sure my friend, Tan Sri Zol, may have a lot to say about this, but he will not be able to say it now. So be it. This is my narrative in a very short way, but I have empirical evidence to prove what I have said. We may call it pipe dream, but I got empirical evidence to substantiate this fact. I did this when I was Director of Education of Kelantan, a northern eastern state of Peninsular Malaysia, and when I was the Director General of Education. I was not afraid to die. I did this, And I was very happy that my headmasters and officers leave. And they brought Kelantan to new heights of greatness. But it is no longer the case now. I can dare say that they kill all their followers. It is from such empirical evidence that occurred again and again, namely people achieving peak performance and displaying unprecedented creativity and innovation, and achieving the seeming unachievable when granted full freedom and autonomy, amply persuaded me to embrace the leadership construct presented above. Namely, the purpose of leadership is principally for the leader to become redundant and to die, so that those that he leaves can live and flourish. The empirical regularity demonstrates that people that you lead perform extremely well, become productive, creative, and imaginative when the leader stands aside and not be in their way. And in the truest sense of the word, grant them full liberty and space to achieve a common goal. I can go on and on to give details of the empirical regularity, but this is not the forum given the time constraint. Maybe next time. To end, may I propose that we need to rewrite the leadership narrative so that we can fulfill our sacred duty as Allah's vicegerent. May Allah grant our dua to attain mizan in what we do and bring about the full realization of sustainable development for mankind. Thank you very much. I hereby close the summit. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Dr. Wan Zaid Wan Muhammad Nordin, for your closing remark of WICULS.